Mr. Speaker, on Sunday, January 19, 2024, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, announced that he had used his clemency power to pardon posthumously the Jamaican national hero, the Right Excellent Marcus Garvey. It is a welcome and celebrated development following decades of advocacy at the highest level to clear the hero's name. The House will recall that Marcus Garvey was convicted of mail fraud in the racially charged United States of America in 1923. He was accused of stock solicitation through the mail to support his Black Star Line. Garvey had established the Black Star Line in 1919 to operate a worldwide network of steamships. He planned for the Black Star Line to provide passage for black people who wanted to return to Africa, as well as to provide a financial base to support the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, which he founded right here in Jamaica towards his goal of rehabilitating the black race. Garvey offered shares of stock in the Black Star Line at $5 per share. In the space of a year, the Black Star Line raised more than $610,000 and owned 3 ships. However, through a series of problems, including sabotage, the company ran into difficulty. To keep the business afloat, Garvey sold more shares. It was his stock solicitation through the mail that led to his arrest and unjust conviction. And it is important that in this House, we understand the journey and what took place and where we have reached today because of all the efforts that have been made. Garvey was indicted on 13 counts of mail fraud, but was convicted on 1 count. No one else was convicted in the matter. The conviction was based on, and I quote, evidence surrounding Benny Dancy, a port station worker who had bought 50 shares in the Black Star Line. Dancy had given an empty post-paid envelope addressed to himself to government agents who visited his home, though he said at the trial that he could not remember what was sent in the envelope or even if he had read the material. The court concluded that, quote, men regularly sending out circulars in envelopes do not send out empty envelopes. Also, one who received an empty envelope would remember the emptiness. And further and finally, that when Dancy identified the envelope and testified to letters and circulars so numerous that he could not remember all of them, the inference was justifiable that some or one of those documents came in the envelope. The contention of the authorities and the decision of the court was that the Black Star Line was part of a scheme devised by Garvey to defraud blacks by soliciting subscriptions to worthless stock. So Garvey was sentenced to 5 years. And after President Calvin Coolidge commuted his sentence, he was deported in 1927. So we know, as President Biden referred to in his statement, the injustice underlying Garvey's criminal conviction. The trial of Garvey took place at a time of the Garvey Must Go campaign, led by several prominent black leaders in the United States who were vehemently opposed to Garvey's program, as well as many in white America who saw him as too powerful, as dangerous, and needed to be put in his place. By that time, Garvey had founded the UNIA and the Negro World newspaper and was winning the hearts. He was a great orator, and the minds of people who had heard him speak or read his messages. The contemporary reggae artist Chronic sings, "They never told us that black is beautiful." It's interesting that the three words, "black is beautiful," formed Marcus Garvey's original campaign. Love your race, love your features, love yourself. In his mission to uplift and empower the black race, Garvey was inspired by Booker T. Washington. As he put it, I quote, "I read up from Slavery" by Booker T. Washington, and then my doom, if I may so call it, of being a race leader dawned upon me. I ask, where is the black man's government? Where is his king and his kingdom? Where is his president, his country, and his ambassador, his army, his navy, his men of big affairs? I could not find them, said Garvey, and then I declared, I will help to make them. In 1920, Garvey convened the first ever Congress of Black Peoples of the World in Madison Square Gardens, New York. His was the self-professed destiny of promoting the dignity and integrity of the black race, for which he was willing to die. Well, first, he was arrested by those who feared his growing influence and overwhelming charisma and personality. In a society determined to restrict the progress of African descendant people, Garvey became a threat to stability and the perpetuation of white supremacy. With the trial and persecution anchored in white privilege and a desire to restrict the progress of black people, Marcus Garvey became the slaughtered lamb, as it was felt that if he was controlled and neutralized, the threat to white supremacy would be destroyed. Yet, our national hero was not deterred by these schemes to destroy him. He became even more vocal in his assertions of black dignity and integrity. It was through Marcus Garvey's unwavering commitment to racial pride and dignity of the black race that Rosa Parks was enabled to hold her seat in the bus, that Malcolm X was able to defend his cause by stating, by any means necessary, that Martin Luther King was able to dream, and Nelson Mandela was able to walk free. Yes, all this and more was made possible by the right excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey, of whom Martin Luther King declared, and I quote, "He was the first man on a mass scale and level to give millions of black people a sense of dignity and destiny." The trial of Garvey in 1922, at which he represented himself in court without the help of a lawyer, heard that Garvey considered himself to be leader of the colored race of the world and referred to himself at times as the provisional president of Africa, with the purpose of promoting solidarity among the black people of the world. We know that the case against Garvey was marked by acknowledged questionable investigative practices, records of perjury, and official misconduct. We also know that the conviction, imprisonment, and deportation had the intended consequence of discrediting Garvey and to sink the UNIA. But Marcus Garvey celebratedly asserted, "Look for me in the whirlwind or a storm. Look for me all around you, for with God's grace, I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa, to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life." On January 19, on the eve of Martin Luther King Day, the whirlwind has come, and Marcus Garvey's philosophy and dream have been once more ignited in the very heart of America, in the hearts of Jamaicans across the world. All around the world today, everyone is saying the name Marcus Garvey. The government of Jamaica welcomes President Biden's decision to pardon Garvey. It is a right and honorable thing to do and represents a major victory in the struggle to clear Garvey's name. We have been on this mission for a very long time, almost 40 years ago, when the former Prime Minister Edward Seaga took up the matter with the former US President Ronald Reagan. It was through Mr. Seaga, as a minister in the administration of national hero and Prime Minister Sir Alexander Bustamante, that our newly independent nation saw it fit to, in 1964, exhume Garvey's body and ensure that he was finally and fittingly laid to rest in the National Heroes Park and named our first national hero. Since Mr. Seaga's approach to Mr. Reagan, successive Jamaican administrations have continued advocating for the removal of the stain against our hero's name. There's been no divide. We have had one aim. So, Mr. Speaker, on February 9th, 2022, Prime Minister Andrew Holness again made the case for Garvey's exoneration in a letter to President Biden. And I just want to quote here in the letter to President Biden, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said, "The burden of not having Garvey's name freed of association with a wrongful conviction is one not only borne by the Garvey family, Jamaicans, and the people of the Caribbean at large, but by the black race, which even today across the world suffers systemic racism, aggravated discrimination, and a persistent denial of justice." Prime Minister Holness continued to indicate that in the year of our 60th anniversary, he is appealing to the President to do whatever he can to ensure that the name of Marcus Garvey be fully cleared and that he be exonerated. And he made the point too that in our 60th year of anniversary, we were also celebrating 60 years of diplomatic relations with the United States. Mr. Speaker, the mission to clear Garvey has also benefited from the invaluable contribution of the Garvey family, led by his son, Dr. Julius Garvey. and we should applaud his efforts here. The Universal Negro Improvement Association, members of the Jamaican diaspora, the Congressional Black Caucus, and many people in America and across the world who believe, like we do, that this injustice must be set right. So today we celebrate a victory, but the mission continues. And we dare not give up now. This historic pardon is a most significant step in a process which must continue until the national hero is exonerated. His name must be cleared completely. So we now look to the U.S. Congress to take action to expunge the criminal record from the hero's name. Similar to the action that was taken in this House, this Parliament, where we unanimously voted to clear the criminal records of Jamaican national heroes and other freedom fighters who were convicted in colonial times for their actions that have enabled our emancipation and our independence. Now, for this reason, in 2009, the Jamaica National Heritage Trust, as an agency of the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport, secured the transcript of Garvey's trial in the United States of America. So today, I proudly display all 4 volumes as a reminder for posterity and as our tool with which we are now equipped to go forward for his exoneration. It's all here, the details of the trial in the United States. We did limited copies, and copies were presented to the leaders of both sides of the House. I don't know if the leader of the opposition will be able to locate the set that was given. But I've indicated to the JNHT that they should order additional volumes so we can make a presentation to you and a presentation to Prime Minister Holness and to others to whom we think it's necessary for them. But we are very proud that we did the work. And it's all here. So we continue to honor Garvey's legacy through many initiatives. And there's a long list of things that I could go through. But I won't do that at this time. I will do that in a detailed chronicle of the work that we have done. And all Jamaicans can take credit. Both sides of the divide can take credit that we are united in one cause, to have the name of Marcus Garvey cleared in the United States of America. And it is not only people of the black race that are on this mission. You know, I co-founded a black publication in Toronto, and one of our little gems that we would put in the paper is that black is a color, but it's more so a state of mind. So we're on this journey together. And so the pardon removes a stain against one of the greatest Jamaicans, a Jamaican national hero and a hero for humanity. We welcome it wholeheartedly, but this is not the end. We know that there is still one last critical step to get to our final destination, and that's the exoneration of Marcus Garvey in America. So we will continue to work with the Garvey family, led by Dr. Julius Garvey, and all the other stakeholders, the Congressional Black Caucus, the UNIA, both political divide in this House, we'll be at one in this effort to push for the clearing of Marcus Garvey name and to remember it's one aim, one destiny, one love. Blessings.